Tracy Cruz, and welcome to Between the Lines. The reason for the rhyme, exploring what's on the mind of the artist. And today, listen, we have one of the greatest actors of all times, Mr. Carl Kennedy. And one of the greatest acting coaches, instructors that you have yet to learn. Here he is.
How is everyone?
Good, good. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I don't take it for granted. So
Awesome.
If you see me look down, I'm everybody's, there's a storm outside or a storm brewing. So I'm just making sure I set up a second device just in case we get a little, if my internet goes out, then I have another internet provider that I can go to. So just to let you know, if you see me working, then that's all that is. But I'm very, very thankful to be here at Neo Soul TV, and I consider it an honor and a blessing. So please know that.
Awesome. You said there was a storm brewing. Do you mean physically with the weather, or do you mean with all of the other events that are happening in the world today?
Yes, it's a double-edged sword. I would say with the actual weather outside, precipitation and things of that nature. But we were talking right before we started recording. The other the other weather system has always been. Now, that doesn't mean you accept it or anything like that, but I acknowledge the other weather system, and you learn how to deal with the weather, if you know what I mean. Sometimes that might mean building shelter. Sometimes that might mean just taking shelter with someone else. That might mean providing some kind of covering for your neighbor. And sometimes that means laughing and dancing in the rain.
Well,
so I choose to laugh and dance in the rain in most of the time, because I'm assimilated to it, is because what's happening does not stop my progress. I was actually saying to Tracy, which is my little brother's name spelled the same way. I was telling Tracy earlier that this has been, for me, as a Black man, one of the most blessed seasons of my life, not because I chose it to be, is because God chose it to be. God chose for me in my small circle of influence. He's allowed me to be a beacon of hope and a beacon of light and a beacon of encouragement for other people. And that's what I plan to do. And I'm not here to argue with God. So if he wants to bless me in a drought, then I'm going to allow him to do it.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy, let me ask you this. When did you fall in love with the arts? When did you realize you had the gift of acting?
The gift of acting? My mother told me when I was a child, she says, if you could get paid for acting silly, you would be rich. I remember that as a adolescent, as a youth. So I didn't kind of take it and run with it. We came from and I come from, and still coming from, a God-fearing family. We didn't have a lot of maybe guidance, or we weren't ever necessarily pointed into a particular direction. I knew all things were possible, but then there's still the practical application of. So I feel that there could have been a little bit more of that. So I felt like I came up on the rough side of the mountain in the way of I didn't have the mentor, or I didn't have the coach, or I didn't have this or this. It was a guidepost every now and then, but I think it was early on. I knew that I'd like to entertain. You might all be dancing and say, oh, do that again, or show your auntie, or, I was one of those kids. So there wasn't a lot of middle school and elementary school plays or anything like that. Like I said, maybe the guidance wasn't there. But it always stayed in my heart. And then whenever I had the opportunity to take advantage of it as an older person or as a mature, become a young adult, then I kind of through God was able to blaze a trail.
I'm a fighter, a warrior and survivor. Once abandoned and left for dead, I was saved by the people. I am no bystander, yet I will forever stand by my city. I am the fox. I am Atlanta.
On Instagram, I believe, you're not just an actor, you are also a spoken word artist. Did you write the piece you did? And the artistry, I mean, it was also visually appealing. You did it in black and white. Tell us about your spoken word skills, because Neo Soul TV is the foundation of it is spoken word. And this Between the Lines is a spinoff from Neo Soul. So, and you did do an excellent, touching spoken word piece. Was it original? Did you edit it? I mean,
Familiarity breeds. A uniformed officer prays on his knees for a nigger not to breathe. Unanswered cries for help for a black mother dressed in all white, black tie affair, casket sharp, formal invite. Injustice served on silver platters. I wish your frustration shown in Facebook posts mattered. Most cry out to a chain letter God, but won't write a letter to their uncle detained in prison, I swear to God. The world waxes worse and worse. Observe the phases of the moon. Anything or anyone contrary to popular opinion is a coon. And we all know what happens to a house divided. My soul is loaned and you don't own the body you reside in. Rental insurance lap due to non-payment. It's not about right or wrong, it's what they can get away with. Every civilian has a body cam, but when the director called cut, the action continued. Another body, damn. There he go with that saints and sinners. You can bounce with that sucker shit. He fast asleep. I don't know who he undercovers with.
Number one, I did write it. And number two, you'll probably never catch me quoting anybody else's poetry ever, only because I feel that I dip my bucket into a limitless well. So I'm never quoting anybody else. I've tried not to quote myself because it's always there. I think personally, regardless of how much TV you see me on or theater that you haven't seen, because if you weren't in the theater, you don't see it. I think I'm a better spoken word artist than I am an actor, to be completely honest. Spoken word came first, but spoken word, we're not really in a place where it's economically feasible to just be a spoken word artist. So to me, I say, well, if there's time, like acting is like the, hey, look at me, Tia, hey, look at me, Tracy. And then, okay, oh, he has a book of poetry, or books of poetry. He's been writing poetry since high school, So, and I'm 41. It gives you an idea of how long. So to me, I only write when inspired. But yes, definitely my piece. I'm more comfortable doing that. Like I could come off the top, as they like to say. But no, spoken word has always been close to me, writing and performing my own poetry. I really respect the craft. To be completely honest, if you're up in front of a crowd, and I don't want to offend anybody up here or any of our listeners, if you're in front of a crowd and you're reading off of a book, to me, I feel like I'm a spoken word elitist, even when I didn't have any credits behind my name, because if you are reading from a book, to me, you don't respect the craft, because staged reading, call it a stage reading, but don't call it a performance and charge people and then read from a book. Don't do that. Right. If this is a not resuscitation, excuse me. If you're reciting the piece, Tia, then okay, cool, sit in a chair, do that, right? Or have your little podium, wonderful. It's like a speech, but if call that poetry, but don't call it spoken word. I don't feel like Maya Angelou was a spoken word artist, right? And I don't, you know, I'm removed, a little younger, so I've never actually seen her do her thing, right? But I'm pretty sure it feels like a reading type thing, and you're here 1/4 to the page, 3/4 to the audience. But when you're performing, you're performing. You've never seen an actor get on stage, and this is off topic a little bit. You've never seen an actor get on stage or on a movie, and you've never seen a script in their hand ever. Why? So what's the difference? Have you seen Denzel with a script in his hand ever? When Training Day, he's doing King Kong Ain't Got Whatever on Me, Tia, did you see him with a script in his hand? So why don't we respect the art of spoken word and poetry the same way? So to me, you're discounting the gift, because it's the same gift if you believe it or not. Same tree, different branch. So why are we not respecting spoken word? So I know I just had a little baby rant, so please forgive me.
I thought that was gave an excellent, a really good analogy of, you know, spoken word and poets. And so I've never heard it put quite like that. I used to feel the same way until I got totally bashed by some readers who like to read their poetry for different reasons. You know, everyone's different. So it would be unfair, I think, to group all spoken word artists and poets in different categories, if you will, just because we do something differently. But I do, as a writer, you know, a screenwriter, I like the analogy of actors not having a script in their hand when they're in front of the camera. So I'm going to give you 10 points for that answer. Thank you very much, Carl.
It's interesting that Michael Jackson didn't write Thriller, but he performed Thriller. So be a writer or performer or both, but pick a side, right? Pick a side or do both well, right? If you're a writer, say you're a writer, hey, I'm a writer, you know, I'm not a performer, so I'm going to read what I just wrote and hopefully you'll get something out of it. But to me, as we know, from the hair on your head to the bottom of your feet, your body is an instrument. So why wouldn't you use that instrument? If I'm stuck here or I'm scrolling and then you forget to actually put your phone on screen stay on, now you're doing this and you're apologizing and then you're saying, oh, go ahead, sister, go ahead. Let them use you. And all of this stuff, it's like, you're encouraging bad behavior. You're encouraging bad behavior, right? So this is not your mother's living room, right? There's a time and a place, right, for everything. So I don't feel like when you're in front of possibly a paying crowd that it's time. If you're doing something around the house with friends or whatever like that, that's wonderful, cool. But if we're out on a really professional setting, then it's almost like, you know, now your arm doesn't matter because now your arm is no longer a part of the piece. So when I look at your arm, guess what I see, Tracy and Tia? When I'm looking at your arm, I see the performer and not the character, because the performer has to hold the script, the character does not.
Right.
Because there's a character, there's a voice that's speaking. So your voice or your character that's speaking has 2 legs, 2 feet, 10 toes, right? But they only have 1 arm and 5 fingers because the other arm and the other fingers are the actors or the performer. I want to see the character. So when I see that, there's something what we call in acting called the suspension of disbelief. So it's hard for me to believe that I'm completely seeing the character when I see the arm of a performer. And I see the fingers of a performer scrolling.
Right.
This is not something I take lightly.
See, Carl, you're dropping all of this knowledge, but there are plenty of viewers out here who won't know who you are. Tell us a little bit about this.
I'm sorry, I told you I talk a lot.
Dropping all this time, like who is this guy?
As tensions escalated between rioters and local police, officers were asked to stand down until the Florida National Guard arrived.
Cowards. Rather watch the city burn than help anyone.
Didn't do Tyron Lewis much good.
People have been mistreated for a long time, Daddy. No one ever helps them. Breaking stuff probably made folks feel better.
I see great things for you, baby girl.
Scoop him up.
Sorry, but Elwood Davis is here.
I'll make it quick.
He asked for Director Weber.
Can I help you?
Yes, I need to see Jeffrey Harrington.
Is he an inmate?
He was arrested, yes.
Well, it doesn't work that way. Visiting days
I'm
are...
his attorney.
Oh. One moment.
How long?
I need to call the DA's office.
Why?
We have to let them know if there are visitors. This shouldn't take long, sir.
I have to get the DA down here.
Yes, sir. No answer. I'll try him back in a few minutes.
What do you mean, no answer? It's the DA's office.
Sir, I just tried to call them. They're busy.
You should try it again.
You want to have a seat and wait, please?
King. Who is this king?
I'll say this, and he's like, here he goes again. I promise I'll get to what you're saying. Number one, I don't believe I'm a king. I'll tell you why. People don't like to hear this. Oh, he's 6'5" and this and this. No, I'll tell you why. Because with the king, you got to have the king's responsibility, right? I'd rather be the peasant that shows up the king. The expectations are lower, right?
Okay.
The expectations are lower when you're a servant. I'd rather be the servant and carry myself like the king than be the king and you just expect it. There's nothing wrong with expecting greatness or excellence, right? But if you, it's one of those things. Well, if you bring yourself low, in my belief, you'll be brought up, right? I'm not going to go and sit to the head of the table, right? I'm going to go and invite it, right? But when you make yourself something, if somebody else want to call you something, cool, but I'll never call myself that. I get it, and I have nothing against it, but I won't. I don't recognize that at all. I rather be. The teacher told us one time. He says, John Jory said, "You're not artists." He goes, "Artists come once in a generation. You're workers of the theater." And I was like, And I got, I kind of got offended in my little spirit, to Tia and Tracy, because I wanted to be special, right? But here's the thing. Let me. My mom said something to me one time, and I promise I'll tell them a little bit about me right after this. She says,
I was going to say, okay, we're listening.
No, she says, the lower you go, the higher he'll take you. And I hate humility. This is just real. Whatever. But she's so right. So when I let go of praising this, praising that, and I'm this and I'm that, and just did the work, then people are like, how long have you been in Atlanta? Right? Have I seen you in this office before? This is the same person, or introducing to Carl Kennedy. Oh, the first time I'm seen by Tyler Perry Studios in person by Raven Drummer, the casting director, a guest star recurring role on The Haves and the Have-Nots, the first time. Or somebody might see her and mention my name 3 years later after being hired on that program where I still getting residuals from. And she says, "Oh, Carl, yeah." They didn't say tall and black. They didn't say tall and black. They didn't say haves and have-nots. She says, "Oh, Carl, loved him, very good, hired him immediately."
Well, hey, great leaders were great servants.
Right. So to me, I'd rather, let's just be with the people and let's all go together. To me, it's boring. It's boring at the top. It's boring at the top because you're by yourself. I was on set and I was doing Bobby Christina opposite Vivica Fox. I was Gary Houston. She was Patricia Houston. And one of the people said, "Carl, you're supposed to be on the other side. We were having craft services, catering, whatever, and we were eating." And they said, "You're supposed to be on the other side." And I looked around and I'm eating pizza with the extras and the stand-ins and things of that nature. And I said, "I'm comfortable where I am. Thank you." And I went over there and they had the tins, Tia, and it's all fancy and the smothered this and the whatever. We're all eating and having a great time. And there's a time and a place for that. But to me, I'm like, I'm having a conversation and having fun and dancing and being silly with these people over here. These are my people. So to me, that's victory lap type stuff. Yes, I belong in both places, but I'm a little bit more comfortable because the majority of my life has been spent here. So this is cool, right? But this is not anywhere I necessarily want to hang out. I don't know if I want to hang out because this comes with a particular personality and things of that nature. I like it down here. Now I like, there's certain things up here I like, but when it comes to maybe attitudes or feelings about the people that sit here, I'd rather sit low and know, Tia, that when I stand up, I'm taller than this.
Okay. So your teaching spirit is just coming out all over the place. And so going back to letting us know who you are.
I'm so sorry.
Also
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be. You're also an acting coach, acting teacher.
Yes. So I'm actually going to answer the question now. Please, again, forgive me, Tracy and Tia. So, hello, my name is Carl Kennedy. MFA, please say the MFA. What's the MFA? Masters of Fine Arts in Acting from the University of Washington Professional Actor Training Program, class of 2010. Before that, it was a Bachelor's in Theater from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington in 2006. Before that, just a community college, Pitt Community College. I'm not going to discount it in my hometown. Well, actually, Pitt Community College is in Winterville, but I'm from Greenville, North Carolina. Born and raised, just like I said, just an everyday guy that's had some extraordinary experiences. Really thankful for going the education route. I always wanted to be this person maybe that you would see on TV, but I didn't know how to get there. So I said, well, every time I would do a check-in and I'm like, am I famous yet? We're kids, so we're all, so I would do the check-in, Tia, and then when that didn't happen, I just went to school again. And I went to school till it topped out. The Masters of Fine Arts is a terminal degree, so it's the equivalent of a PhD in something else. I can teach at a university, yada yada, so forth and so on. So then after that, now it's about experience. It's about putting yourself out there. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to work in Canada because, as you know, Seattle, Washington is only a few hours from Vancouver, British Columbia. I've had a chance to do, I know, 9 or 10. I think I've been offered 11, but done 9 projects in Canada, all live theater, cross-Canadian tour, 7 provinces, 18 cities from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Victoria and Vancouver, BC. In the Vancouver, British Columbia theater community and the Jesse Richardson Theater Awards, I've been nominated for Best Actor a couple of times for a couple of very powerful pieces. One of the pieces was Jesus Hop the A Train by Stephen Atlee Girgis, and the other piece was, God forgive me for forgetting, The Whipping Man by Matthew Lopez. It was set somewhere around mid-1800s, evacuation fire of Richmond, yada yada, so forth and so on. An amazing play, again, The Whipping Man by Matthew Lopez. I went to Los Angeles, 2015 was spent there. Great time. And back to Canada for 2 world premieres and a one-man show. And then I went on a little short trip with a friend, and she said, hey, try Atlanta. And I was like, there's nothing in Atlanta, right? Because you come in, Canada, terminal degree, like I don't audition in Canada, period. And that's me being boastful in the Lord. Like I don't audition in Canada. So it goes off of the first quick testimony, really, really quick. So we went to school is in quarters in University of Washington, Seattle. So we were off every summer. So every summer between after year one, after year 2, and then after year 3, when I graduated, I was housekeeping on campus, changing the triple dorms, the triple bed dorms or triple bed rooms to doubles, and then we would service it like a hotel over the summer. Nobody would hire me, Tia, right? Nobody would hire me, Tracy. No Shakespeare, no something, no Shakespeare in the park, no stop theater, nothing, right? Because they would bring representatives in to audition us. Nothing, right? So I said, okay, I know how to work. I know where I came from. So that's nothing new. Most of us know how to work. You're brown. So I worked. Somebody invited me to do a show. It was actually Jesus Hop the A Train by Stephen Atlee Girgis. I had did it in undergrad already. And I said, yeah, whatever. It was like, oh, it's going to be a year from now. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in a year. Anyway, long story short, first play at postgraduate school, Best Actor nomination. I didn't even know there was the Jesse Richardson Theater Awards. I had no idea. So off of the strength of that, I never had to audition. They were like, who is this guy? It's like, hey, we know who you are. We know your work. This is what we can offer you, pay you first day you walk in the door. Just a trust there. So so I've had, my experience is not typical. So usually when I speak, even being a African-American male from the South, because my story is not typical, even when I was in the South and still in the South right now, in Atlanta, Georgia, or in the Atlanta, Georgia metropolitan area, my story is not typical. So I don't know. And I hate to say it because it sounds boastful, but it's not. But favor isn't fair. You know, people always say grandmother's prayers and mother's prayers and things of that nature, and breaking generational curses and bloodline patterns and strongholds and things of that nature. And I'm the result of those things being broken. And my older brother and my younger brother, they're not artists necessarily, but they're hardworking people, and they're very successful in their respective careers.
What about your acting school? Due to this new world order, how are you manifesting that? How are you making things happen as far as instructing, elevating people's acting skills?
Very easy. The same way we're doing it right now, through Zoom. Before this, I didn't care enough to get house internet. I've been in Atlanta since 2017, and there was no reason for me to get internet at the house, Tia, because it worked on my phone. So why have two bills, right? To me, it's about having Lamborghini money and still buying a Honda, right? Okay. Because after you can get it, then there's no male testosterone driven chase. There's no chase when you can do it. So it's like, I don't need the internet, right? I don't want another bill. What if, acting we know is in and out. So I said all that to say, when this happened, COVID was one of the biggest blessings because it forced change. It forced change. I was having people come in here in person, and you were doing things a different way. But if you believe in such a thing of the Lord will supply all your needs according to His riches and glory, right? So to me, it's like I had to change. God is the same to me, or whatever creator, or whatever word you want to put on it. But for me, the change is never in God, the change is in us. So to me, I was like, oh, let me sow a seed and get the internet. Let me sow a seed and start offering group classes. And the message doesn't change if I'm in person or not. When you do a self-tape, right? Self-tape audition, and the Southeast is a self-tape market, Tracy and Tia. Everything is widescreen, as you can see here. It's going to be minimal space above the head, and it's going to be about shoulders up or about chest up, right? So, and you see the neutral background, you see the excellent lighting, right? And then, of course, no logos, no lettering, and a shirt that is going to make the chocolate pop, right? So everything I need to see from you or Tia, if you were both auditioning, is this frame right here. That's all I would need to see. I know what's going on underneath by what's going on up top. It's just like a basketball player say, watch the trunk of the player, because you can't go anywhere without the center of your body.